Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fix My Fees podcast, where merchant processing is so boring. I bring on people who are doing interesting things and giving back to CEOs, entrepreneurs in different ways. And I have them on the podcast so that they can teach you and you can learn some new things. So I am your host, Tavious Washington. And today we have with us Leslie Gold. How are you doing today, Leslie?
Very well.
I'm happy to have you on because I don't know if entrepreneurs are talking about this kind of topic enough, right? With a lot of CEOs, entrepreneurs, managers, even, you know, people, hardworking individuals themselves as employees, put in a lot of hours. They can spend a lot of time, working. And what they'll end up doing is relying on substances, whether it's substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, to kind of manage their emotions outside of things. And so for you, you've been in this realm of helping people with recovery and getting sober and staying sober, especially people that are in a newer field for what is it, almost 20, 30 years that you've been doing this. So like, tell us a little bit about like how you got into this line of work to the point where like over this period of time, starting with like managing to now helping people with their recovery.
If you would have told me 15 years ago this is what I would be doing, I would have been really surprised. The pieces were there, but they all came together right about the time when I was getting ready to retire. My entire professional career before I started doing this was in hospital operations. So I had a lot of business and finance and data management, project management kind of experience. I've been running since I was in high school. And then I had been volunteering as a coach at an addiction treatment program, helping clients train for the LA Marathon. And as I was doing this, that's when I really started to learn a lot about addiction, because if you're running with somebody, let's say 15 miles, they're at your side. You don't have to be looking each other in the eye. People are tired, the barriers are down, and people start to share. And that was really how I learned a lot about recovery. That was the first time I ran the marathon, and then the next time they asked me if I wanted to help coach, and I was getting toward the end of my professional career, and frankly, I was working for a company that I knew was probably not going to be around in another year, so I thought, what a good time to retire, and I thought, I wanna do something meaningful with my life that's gonna keep my brain engaged, that's going to help others and leverage experience that I already have, so I thought, you know what? Why not start a nonprofit that brings running programs to clients in early recovery at treatment facilities. All the years that I was coaching that one team, I would hear people so often say things like, I learned I'm so much stronger than I thought. I could do whatever I put my mind to. I love being part of the community. I like doing something bigger than myself. And there were so many times I would finish a run where people would say, "Oh, thank you so much for listening." And that was the first time it dawned on me that, oh, my running is actually helping someone else. I had always, up until then, run for my own mental health or
Right.
physically healthy, clear my head, get some quiet time, relieve stress. It never dawned on me like, oh, I could be helping someone else. And then it all came together. So in 2018 is when Strides in Recovery officially launched. So yeah, the seeds were there for many decades, but that's when it started.
So you actually enjoy running.
I do.
I have a love-hate relationship, and maybe I just need to get better shoes, but it's like sometimes I love it, sometimes I hate it. I've been doing bikes more, you know what I mean, to kind of get that cardio in, but I've been wanting to get into like the long distance and the marathon running for a while. I just haven't jumped onto it. But so as you're doing, so you leverage marathons to help with the recovery because of that communication?
Not everybody trains for marathons because the clients, for the most part, that are in residential treatment don't have the time to train for a marathon. So that's something they can do when they finish treatment and are in outpatient and living on their own. What we do is introduce the clients to running, and they could be walking. It doesn't have to be running. The idea is that they are working toward a goal. For some people, the goal is I want to finish a 5K. For some people, the goal is I just want to get out of the facility and clear my head. So the
Right.
way I look at it is if you come back an hour later and you're in a better mood than when you left, and you learn that getting outside with other people and being active makes me feel better, hopefully you'll use that tool the next time you're thinking, everything's bad and I want to go back and use or drink or, do something that's going to set them set them back. We do have every month we offer the participants in the program an opportunity to to run a 5K or a 10K.
Right.
And sometimes we host our own events, so they definitely get out there and see what it's like. But, if people say, I hate running and I just want to go out for a walk and come back and clear my head, that's fine with me. I make a point
Right.
of notice my shirt. It says strides. It doesn't say you have to run. It just says you got to move
Right.
forward in life and in your recovery, and we're here to help you do that. Some of our people, that said, do go on and run half marathons, full marathons, and we have a program to work with them on that, but it's not a requirement.
What is like your, I guess your favorite parts or the parts that you love most about what do you do?
Boy, there's a lot. I think one of the things we'll do from time to time is give our clients a whiteboard and they'll have some prompts on it, like running helps me in sobriety by, or after I run with a group, I feel we have about 5 or 6 of them, and we give people the opportunity to share whatever resonates with them. And so many times people write things that really are heartwarming and surprise me where I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I had no idea it made this big of a difference. And just to see that impact is huge. So that's one. Another thing I love is when people finish the program and they get out of residential treatment, and then we always tell them, hey, our community is still here. You can come back and participate when people actually do. And we have people who come back and then they start volunteering and they're doing really well as volunteers, and then a paid position opens up and we hire them as head coaches and they're thriving in that role, and then they're coming back and telling me later like, hey, this changed my life, this is what kept me sober. So our community just keeps getting bigger and stronger and healthier, and it's really nice to see where it's going.
That is awesome. I can tell how much you love it,
Well,
how your smile lights up. And so what does your day-to-day look like when you're not necessarily like at the actual marathon running? What are some of the different things that you're doing to help you?
well, there are days when I'm out there and I'm coaching teams. So I'll go, and a typical session will be about an hour and a half. You go, you welcome everybody, say something inspiring, introduce them to the other volunteers. And then, hey, we're going to go out and walk down to the beach or run to the beach or go wherever, and then come back and see if people are feeling well. And the rest of it is all that stuff behind the scenes that you need to do to run a nonprofit. So, I've got 23 employees, so there are always things to do to support them and make sure the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And there's always a need for fundraising. So I'm spending a certain amount of my time on that. And then there's the financial management part of it. And the other thing that I am working very hard on is making sure that the organization is sustainable and it's not something where if I got hit by a bus, which hopefully doesn't happen, that the whole organization is going to fall apart. So we are spending a lot of time documenting all of our processes and sharing it and making sure everybody understands what needs to be done and how people work together. And also delegating more as I can, because when I first started this, it was just me running around and coaching a couple teams. And then as it got bigger, oh, I have to hire coaches. And then as it got even bigger, I had to hire more people to do things. But you can't hire people unless you've fundraised enough to be able to pay them, because usually the people you hire like to get paid. So um,
Yes.
there's that balance of you've got to delegate, but you've got to be able to fundraise so you're able to delegate. And then you need to make sure that that revenue stream is continuing so that I never want to have to say to somebody like, "Hey, I'm sorry, we ran out of money and we have to let you go." That hasn't happened, and I hope it never will.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you when you have the idea of helping people, no one ever tells you there's a lot more financial parts to it when you want to help people, and the more people you help, there are more overhead and things that start to pop up out of nowhere, and
Well,
so you have to manage that business side too.
yeah, I mean, I had read that if you go into a business doing something you love, remember you're a business owner first, and maybe you'll spend 15% of your time doing that thing that was your passion that inspired you to launch that business, and the other
Right.
85% is going to be running the business. And when I look at how I spend my time, I would say I was right on. That's the mix.
So you're dealing with which is can be a sensitive topic or it can be something people want to keep to themselves. They don't want to talk about, even if they are going through the journey. They may not want to tell people, especially in the early stages, the judgment versus someone who's more further along. What are some of those common like misconceptions or common thoughts that people are having when they're going through this first part of being sober and trying to keep it up, but also not really wanting to talk about it? Like, what are those common misconceptions you're usually running into?
Actually really surprised at how open people are.
Mm.
I don't ask people directly. I create and I encourage our coaches and our volunteers not to ask, but to create an environment so that if people do want to share that they feel like it's a safe space. And yeah, I'm actually really surprised at how much people do choose to share. I think the biggest thing in terms of what I hear is just how much negative messaging is in people's heads. You'll say, "Oh, hey, we're gonna go whatever." I can't do that. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can. You know, one of my favorite stories, I was trying to convince one of the guys to run. He was walking and looking at him physically, I knew he was capable of it, but whatever was going on in his head, he decided he couldn't. So I tried all my standard stuff to, you know, encourage him, and none of it was working. So finally I said, "All right, Ben, I'll tell you what, if you run, you get some free weed." So he looks at me, he's like, "Well, I can't do that." I said, "Well, I can't touch that stuff." I said, "You don't have to. You get to make it in your head." And he kind of looks at me, and then I explained how one of the outcomes of keeping your heart rate at that 60 to 80% level for at least half an hour is that it creates a chemical in your brain called anandamide, which binds to the same receptors that THC does.
Yep.
So from your brain's perspective, you're smoking weed. It's just that it's legal, it's safe. Well, I guess it's legal in most places anyway, but so he said, "All right, well, but I'm a really bad runner." Fine, like no one cares. This isn't the Olympics. Can you
Right.
run with me from here to the next driveway? Okay, he does. And then, well, all right, can you go to the next telephone pole? Yeah, okay, we can do that. And then he's like, "Well, is it okay if I keep going?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." Next thing you know, he's gone 3 miles and he turns to me and he's like, "You're right. This runner's high thing is real. I can't believe it." And then he comes back and tells all the other guys, "You guys all have to run. It's like going out and getting loaded. I love this." And that switch flipped from I can do this. And the other thing that I love is that when people start to run and go further than they thought they could, at some point they start to realize that, oh, there are other hard things in my life that I don't think I could do. Well, I didn't think I could run a mile and I
Mm,
just ran two. So maybe I
right.
could do this other hard thing. And I like to think that everything we're doing when we're training toward whatever goal is important to people is that they take those skills and apply them to everything else in their life.
I like that. Yeah, because the first time I heard that you can get that kind of like high, same as THC from your brain naturally, was from a guy who does breath work. So that was like, he was like, I can show you how to breathe the right way. And after 10, 15 minutes, you'll feel that. And I feel like he's probably doing the same thing, like just using his breath to get the runner's high part of it and then doing that. So that's so unique, like how our body and brain works in that. What would you say to someone who is starting their journey? What advice would you give to someone who's like, I just quit alcohol, I just quit, meth or any other drugs, and they're like starting their journey, first couple of weeks trying to, fight and kick the habit? What kind of advice would you give to those people? Or maybe even is just like a CEO who's like, you know what, I'm gonna finally give up alcohol for a bit.
Well, first thing I would say is congratulations on making such a big decision. And then I guess just asking people what they want to do next. Everybody has different reasons that they chose. Sometimes I'll ask, like, what was it that made you decide now it's time to quit? And what do you want for yourself? And I think it's all about asking people the questions so they can figure out what next step is right for them.
Right.
And in our program, we're not doing the therapy. They're in we're not addiction counselors. So they're in treatment programs where there are skilled providers that are helping them work through that. I look at our program and say, this is helping clients get emotionally stronger, mentally stronger, physically stronger so that when they are doing the rest of the work that they need to do in recovery, they're prepared. I mean, any kind of exercise does a lot to stimulate new brain cell growth. So if you walk in, you just went out for a run and then you go into group therapy, you're going to be able to process what's happening and what you're hearing much more effectively. You're going to be able to put it into practice because your brain is more oxygenated. And, I don't know how much you want me to get into all the science, but another thing
No, go
that
ahead.
exercise does is it promotes production of something called BDNF, which is brain derived neurotrophic factor, which stimulates the production of new brain cells and new connections between the cells. And if you are trying to learn a new habit, you need to have a brain that supports that learning and growth. One of
Right.
the things that unfortunately you see a lot of is people leave treatment, they're finished and they were really committed. I mean, they wanted to be sober, they wanted to do the work, and then they're out there a month or two later and they relapse. It's because their brain is still wired the way it was when they were using, so it's almost like
Right.
autopilot. I mean, think about it if, let's say you're right-handed and all your life you do everything right-handed and somebody said, "Okay, the new healthy way to do everything is left-handed." It's gonna be hard to remember to do that because using your right hand is just your habit, and
Mhm.
if people have spent years that the way I numb my pain is to use, and suddenly you say, here's a bunch of new things you need to do instead, it's not so easy. And as you practice the new habits more, your brain will start to wire itself to support those new habits. But if
Mm.
you are doing any kind of exercise, it doesn't need to be running, it just needs to be sustained, moderate aerobic activity. So it could be cycling, it could be swimming, rowing, hiking, whatever. It will significantly increase the production of the cells primarily in the hippocampus, which is what is responsible for learning and memory. So you get to leave treatment with a brain that supports recovery too.
I could I could see people starting to see results a little faster with that method, right? When I think about it from a prospect of like, I'll take myself for example. I used to drink alcohol like every day, and then I stopped, and I shouldn't say immediately. For the first like couple weeks, I didn't really feel a difference. And I was like, see, why did I give this up? I was functioning. I never got a job. I never got a DUI. Like, why? I should just drink, right? I don't see any benefit. And then I drink, and then I was like, I hate this. Why did I ever do this? This is terrible. The next day felt horrible, right? And
Wow.
it's like, oh, how did I build up this, you know, adaptation to it to where like now when I drink it, I feel it the next day. And it's like, why do I do this? But also, the same thing happens when I work out. When I'm on the bike and I'm working out and I'm doing that, a lot of times I'm like, man, I don't feel the results. I don't see the results. But at the same time, when I stop, my legs get more cramped, I get more tired. So adding them together, do you feel like that helps people with the recovery faster because they're kind of well, their health, I mean, does it help improve their health faster because they're able to double up with working out, feeling better, getting the dopamine, and then also quitting something that was hurting their body at the same time?
Oh yeah. People tell us all the time, like they feel so much better. And then it becomes a cycle because as you start to feel physically better and you realize that you are empowered to make yourself feel physically better, people feel like they have more control over their lives and they have much more hope because you got to figure by the time you land yourself in an addiction treatment program, you've hit bottom. Like you realize like I can't do this on my own and usually people's self-esteem is about zero at that point. They feel like failures, there's shame,
Mhm.
there's guilt. And if you start to build that up through exercise, it's like, "Oh, I could do this little, simple, easy thing. I went and I walked down the street and I feel better than, last week I was struggling to walk down the street."
Right.
And as people start to feel like, "Oh, wait, there is something I can do, and I'm getting good at it, and I'm getting better, and I'm learning how to clear my head and think," and it empowers people to tackle other goals that they have.
I
I think
like it.
for everything we do supports what they're supposed to do in recovery.
Right. I do love that. If there was one thing you just wanted people to know when it comes to recovery, what would be like the one thing you just want people you wishes everyone knew?
Well, I mean, given what we do, I wish more people understood the value of exercise. Something that drives me insane, and I see this at the treatment centers that, the clients come in and, okay, you're here to learn how to live your life without substances. So go get into the med line and you're going to get your antidepressants and your anti anxiety pills and your sleep meds. And it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, some people really do need that, but to me, it shouldn't be the first thing that you do. It should be, okay, let's have a super healthy eating schedule. Let's get you exercising every day. Let's get you onto a regular sleep cycle. And after we've done all of that, if you're still having anxiety and depression, and yeah, let's add medication to the mix. But to me, trying lifestyle changes should be first, not last.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if you can implement something like running. Like for me, when it comes to like even just my ADHD, I've found more natural ways for going straight for the pill. But it's like not everybody can do it that. So yeah, do it the other ways first, then go to the drug if you need to, versus starting there and then, trying to figure out if something else works, right? In that manner. So I definitely understand that. That's cool. So
Again, there's a
how
lot of evidence in the medical literature. I mean, I'm not just making this up. There are
yeah,
plenty
yeah.
of articles that I could sit here and talk about studies that show the results that I mean, here's a good one that was done. Let me say it was done at Duke, and this was for looking at clients with depression, where they had 3 groups of people, and one was given only antidepressants, one was only exercise, and one was exercise and antidepressants, and they followed them all for 4 months, and okay, what was the rate of relapse into major depressive disorder? And everybody's results were pretty much the same, so the researchers were kinda disappointed, like, they want to find something. It's like, "Alright, let's do this for 6 more months," and they educated people as to, "Here are the 3 options, pick what you wanna do, and we'll come back in 6 months and see how you're doing." Group that was the most successful by far. I think their relapse rate was only something like 8%, whereas everybody else, it was considerably higher, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head. But the group that was the most successful was the exercise-only group, and the theory was the people who were only exercising learned, "I am capable of managing my own moods," whereas the people who were relying on medication would be thinking, I can only do this if I am dependent on pills. I'm not powerful or whatever, empowered on my own. And that was their theory that it does better. I mean, when you exercise, you're increasing the serotonin in your brain, which is exactly the same as taking a pill, but there are all these other mental health kind of benefits as well.
Yeah, mental, physical, emotional. There's so many benefits to working out, especially if you can get on a cadence. And you can start building it up, right? You don't have to go straight into marathons,
Yeah.
hour-long sessions. Like you said, start with running to the stop sign. Wherever that stop sign or tree is, start there and keep it
Yeah,
moving.
just get up and go for a walk
That's
every
how I
day.
started. I started just walking, listening to audiobooks. That's something, if walking becomes hard, especially if it's just boring or you're worried about it, man, listen to something. Listen to an audiobook, some music, something that could keep your interest. And I found like I forgot what they're called, epic fantasies. That's for some reason, if I'm listening to something like Red Rising, I can walk for hours. But if I'm just by myself with no headphones, after 20 minutes, I'm like, this is the worst.
Yeah, or find a buddy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there'll be days where you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna do this," and you might, you know, blow off yourself, like, "Alright, I'm giving up, I'm not doing it." But if you just made a commitment to your friend, you're, "Alright, fine, I'll
Yeah.
drag myself out there," and then at the end of it, I mean, who comes back and is like, "Wow, I'm so sorry I exercised."
Right. First, it gives you accountability. You feel like you got to do it because that person is going to be there. And second, I think there's also that psychology of like, I don't want to be the first to tap out this early. So you keep
Yep.
pushing, having that accountability. I like that. That's awesome. That's another really good nugget right there. So I've seen you light up when you talk about helping people, when you've seen the changes, when you've done, and I also know you love running. Outside of helping people in the running, what are some of the things that Leslie likes to do in her free time?
I also love cycling. That's, one of my other passions is some long distance cycling, and if, actually, so when I left my corporate America job before I started this, I said, "Alright, I'm gonna take this nice long break, clear my head, and figure out my next step." So, I live in Southern California, fairly close to the water. My husband and I literally packed up our bikes, rode out the front door, met a bunch of friends right near the Pacific Ocean, dipped our rear wheels into the Pacific Ocean and started riding. And 2 months later, we got to the Atlantic Ocean, dipped our front wheels into the Atlantic Ocean, and then biked another day to my mom's house. 2 month
Nice.
cross country bike trip was awesome.
That is awesome. That's
Yeah.
unique. I like that. I like that. That is awesome. So now the real question, right? When it comes to food as you're doing this, are you a big foodie? Do you tend to eat the same kind of foods? How are you in your food endeavors?
You mean like in my regular everyday or when I'm on a
Yep.
bike trip?
Your regular everyday, you're biking, like, are you adventurous? Are you more like, I have a routine? Like, how are you? I'm a big foodie, so I love hearing other people's, habits when it comes to food. So it's like the one random thing that I ask everyone when they come home.
Yeah, I'm not that I'll probably give you a disappointing answer. Yeah, my breakfasts and lunches are say my thing is basically no processed food. I really try to keep sugar out of my diet unless it's, eat a Cliff Bar, go for a run. But
Right.
it's pretty much focused on trying to be as healthy as I can. So organic, if that's an option, and whole grains and real fruits and vegetables and not vegetarian, but I don't eat a huge amount of animal protein. Well, a lot of dairy, but very little. Maybe a fish or chicken once or twice a week.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, it's just something I like to
Yeah.
ask. It's always fun to kind of peek into other people and what they eat versus me. I just kind of devour everything within a 10-mile radius, no matter what it is, type of person.
Yogurt, like I think we keep the yogurt industry in business. I eat huge quantities of
Especially as snacks. They're really good. But thank you, Leslie.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
really, really appreciate you coming on this podcast, talking about your passion of yours. I know this is a little different, because we're dealing with entrepreneurs, but I really felt like that as high functioning individuals, a lot of them do deal with substance abuse and things like that. And I wanted you to come on here and kind of show the different ways. But if somebody wanted to, like, first, how do you work with people? And then if they wanted to work with you or learn more about what it is that you do, how can they get in touch with you?
So we're on social media. We have a website, which is stridesandrecovery.org. So that should be easy to find. And if you look up Strides in Recovery on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok, you will find us. So that's probably the easiest way. If you're in Southern California, particularly Los Angeles County, because that's where we operate, I very much welcome people just come join us. We post right on our website what runs we're going to be doing, and then there's some runs that we go to that are races that other organizations are hosting, the big public events. And then we host our own. We've got a hike that we do to the Hollywood sign a couple times a year. We do beach fun runs. So, come out and join us. Anybody who's, a supporter of recovery is always welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
I love
Leslie, for
them.
coming on here with me. I do appreciate you jumping on here with me again. And I'm going to take everything you said, add that to the bio. So if people want to send you an email, go to your website, they can click on that too. But thank you again
Absolutely.
for joining me today.
Sure.
Awesome. Cool. And thank you guys for tuning in and watching me and Leslie talk about different things. If you have more questions, please reach out to her or, subscribe. And if you have an interesting business like Leslie does and you want to be on the podcast, reach out to me at Tavious at fixmyfeesteam.com and we'll schedule it out. Thank you again for watching and see you.